If you played a horror game in the last 20 years, you probably know who Shinji Mikami is. If you played an action game in the last 10 years, you've definitely played a game that's been inspired by Resident Evil 4 or other games in Mikami's backlog. Now after 9 years and a new studio, he's got a new game out in The Evil Within, which is a survival horror game that wants to bring the genre back to its roots and show all the other games in the genre just where they've been going wrong and how this one can put it all right. The problem is though is that it kind of fails to reach that very ambitious goal. As Detective Sebastian Castellanos, you're called to the local insane asylum to oversee the case of a mass murder that's been going on. And from there, you're ripped out of your reality into this alternative reality where everyone's turned to monsters and you never quite know exactly where you are or what's going on. Now Sebastian's got to figure out what's real, what's not, where he is, and how can he escape what he might not be sure what he's in the first place. It's kind of an interesting premise, but it doesn't really go anywhere of any real interest. The story kind of meanders along predictable plot twists with wooden characters. Sebastian in particular really doesn't react to anything that's going on. There's some real grotesque violence in this game, and he is tortured more than once, both mentally and physically, throughout the game. But yet he doesn't really seem to care or react to anything that goes on around him. He has the same reaction to a chainsaw being wheeled in front of his face as he probably would do if he farted in church, which is probably he wouldn't react at all. What he's not caring is kind of hard for you to care, at least that was for me anyway. It's not just the plot though that kind of derails. The gameplay, although it has its moments, still can't reach the ambition it wants. Because it's a horror game and ammo is scarce, you're recommended to not go into every fight guns blazing. So there's a stealth mechanic, where you can sneak up behind enemies and take them down for a silent kill, or use the traps in the environment that have been laid out for you to your advantage and get them villagers and generic enemies killed through outsmarting them. It can be quite fun and very tense as the game is hard. Unlike a lot of games, you're not armed to the teeth, you're not really overpowered, so the generic enemy can kill you.
Out of ammo?
Where it kind of flounders though is when the boss fights happen, and they happen oh so many times. The real issue is just that these bosses don't really play by any particular rules. Some bosses are killed by firing them full of bullets, and some bosses are just immune to all damage, and it's actually an environmental puzzle to figure out how to get rid of them. The game fails in every aspect to communicate which one's which, and you're just left to just guess, wasting your munitions, dying multiple times because they have these one-hit kill animations, until you just finally stumble across the solution, and it's just really frustrating. These are by far the lowest points of the game, and if they were not there, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more. And because you're really underpowered, because it's an upgrade mechanic, the first half of the game is really just frustrating because you're not competent enough to take care of situations when stealth goes awry. When it's time to pull out the guns, you're too weak and too underpowered with your weapons and have too little ammunition to actually survive in this horror. So you're just left to just reload, try again, and it just gets really frustrating. And if I wasn't really reviewing the game, I might have actually turned it off halfway in. Thankfully though I didn't. And once you get a bit stronger in the game and you're a bit more competent in your abilities, the game does come into its own, and there's some right fun to be had in the second half of the game. Although I was never scared, tension is kept high through being in these questionable situations with these relentless odds that keep getting escalated. And for that, The Evil Within, although it's not a perfect game, it's probably not even a great game, it is a game worth experiencing if you like the horror genre. I would recommend though waiting until it comes down in price, because there's just too many stumbles that kind of hold it back from the greatness that could be. Hopefully if Mikami does another one, he'll focus more on the horror and less on the action, and we might get something that could be truly great.